Hi everyone, this is Heather. Thank you so much for joining me. Today I've got a card tutorial for you to make this pretty Easter egg card. And I'm going to be doing a masking technique, and I'm using stamps from Stampin' Up! And I'm mostly using the Jar of Love stamps. I'm using a lot of the flowers and the string. And this is a current set from them. There was no grass in there, so I am also using the grass, one of the grasses from the In the Tree set. And as always, I'm sorry for my overhead lighting. So what you're gonna need is just a cardstock base. I just took this bright kind of pinky coral color cardstock and cut and folded it in half for my card base. Then a lighter piece of pink paper that's been cut to 4 by 5 1/4, and then a piece of white cardstock that is 3 3/4 by 5. And for the masking, I'm going to be using a product called Masking Magic, and this is made by ThermoWeb. I have had this package for quite some time. I usually only use like small pieces of it, so the packaging may look a little bit different, but I'm sure that ThermoWeb is still making a masking paper, and there's a couple of other companies that make it as well. So what I did was took a oval die cut, and you can use any size that you want depending on the stamps that you're using. If you have really small stamps, you might want to use a smaller oval. This is the second to the largest Spellbinders, just standard oval die cuts. And I have taped it to my piece of Masking Magic and ran it through my die cut machine. So what I got was my mask. And it is a little stained because I have been using it a few times because it's really fun. There's so many cool different patterns and everything that you can make with this. If you have an egg shape, that would be even better, but I thought that, you know, oval is a pretty common shape, and most people have oval dies, and I think it still looks like an egg. So you're going to end up with 2 pieces, and you're going to need both the positive and the negative. And the masking paper comes on a backing sheet. And so hang on to the backing sheet because you can use these masks over and over and over again. When you're done with it, you just wipe it clean and put it back on the backing sheet, and either keep it with the stamps that it goes with, or with the dies that it goes with, or if you've got, you know, a little special section that you want to store them in. So be sure to hang on to your backing paper. So on my white cardstock, I'm going to kind of center the mask where I would like it and press down. So it's kind of like a cling film. It's not an adhesive. It just clings to your paper. And I like to take my bone folder and just kind of go around the edges just to make sure that we're not going to get any ink slipping in underneath there. Just make sure that that mask doesn't have a lot of air bubbles around the edges there. You can kind of lift it up and adjust it a little bit. So just make sure that it's pretty smooth around that edge there. And so I'm using 2 different yellows from Stampin' Up. I'm using Crushed Curry and Daffodil Delight. I'm using 2 pinks from Stampin' Up. I'm using Flirty Flamingo, and from Close to My Heart, Baby Pink. I'm using Garden Green from Stampin' Up, and also Memento Black. It's just my go-to black ink, but you could use, we're not gonna be doing any special techniques with the black ink, so you can use whatever black go-to ink that you like. So I like to start in the middle and kind of work my way out when I'm stamping out a pattern. If I find sometimes if I work from the outside in, I might end up with sort of an awkward space in the center. So I like to do my center stamping first. Look, get my ink pads open here. So we're going to start with the lightest color on the large floral stamp. from the Jar of Love, and I'm just inking that up in the pale pink, and I'm gonna stamp that in the center. And then I'm going to stamp it a few more times, and you want to make sure that you're going over the edge. You don't want to keep all your stamps inside your mask. You want to make sure that you're going over, but keep in mind it's very important that the mask sort of repels the ink. It does not absorb it, so you want to be careful not to touch the mask too much if you can help it, so that you're not getting ink on your fingers or smearing it onto the area that you're working on. So I'm just kind of twisting and turning and just filling in with this large stamp base. And one thing I wanted to point out on these layering stamps is that, I hope you can see that, there is a little almost arrow here on the top of the stamp itself, which tells you which way is up. So then when you get the other layer that goes over top of it, there is also a little kind of arrow here that shows you which way is up. So that kind of helps you with the positioning of these stamps. So now this is sort of the shadow. Sorry if there's a shadow of me on top. I want to make sure I get everything lined up. So again, kind of be careful not to touch the mask too much. And I'm just going to go around and go over with the darker color and add this shadow. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Flowers aren't perfect. They don't all have to line up. So there's the light pink with the darker pink shadow over top. Put those out of the way. And now I'm going in with the Daffodil Delight for the base of the yellow flower. And same thing, there's a little arrow that will kind of show you which way is up. And I just kind of want to start filling in some of those white spaces with the yellow, and again going off. Don't have to get everything stamped on there. Add a few more. So feel free to spin it and move it around and make sure that you're getting everything in there that you'd like, and if some of your flowers overlap, that's perfectly fine. So there's the lighter ink. And now I'm going in with the darker crushed curry. Get some lids on my ink pads here, otherwise I will get my fingers in them. So here's the darker shadow that goes over top. Again, doesn't have to be lined up perfectly. Trying very carefully not to touch that ink that is on the mat there, or mask rather. Okay, so now I've got my yellows, light and dark, and then there was a little bit of space where I wanted to fill in just a little bit more, so I took another one of the tiny flowers to fill in. So I'm going back to the darker flirty flamingo and adding just a few of this really teeny flower just to kind of fill in some of those white spaces. Like that. I think I'll add just a little bit more up here. Again, like I said, if it overlaps, doesn't really matter. Kind of spread the love around there. So now we've got our pattern, everything's pretty and all laid out. There is one more little accent stamp that you can stamp in the center of the pink flowers, and adds just another little realistic touch to it. And I'm just doing that in black, and so it really stands out. Okay, so I am done with my pattern. That looks really pretty. Get some of my inks out of the way. And now I'm going to take a paper towel and very carefully remove as much of that excess ink as I can without smearing, and this is a dry paper towel, without smearing it back onto my work surface, or the surface that I've been stamping on. If you get a little bit on, that's okay. You just want to try and get the majority of that excess color up off that mask. So I'm just carefully taking a dry paper towel and running that around the edge just to clean that up a little bit. So I want to do a little bit of ink blending. As you can see on the sample card, that just kind of gives it a bit of a shadow and just sort of makes it look rounder, more realistic, and sort of pulls everything together. So I'm taking a Tim Holtz inking tool and back to the light baby pink ink, and I'm just going to pick up some of that ink. I'm going to start onto the mask and in a swirling motion go in towards my work. Just a little bit, not a whole lot. I just want to add just a little bit of that pink color all the way around the edges. Now, if you wanted to ink your entire egg, you could do ink blending with some multiple colors and fill all that white in, but I kind of wanted it to retain that sort of white egg look, and just go around the edges in just a little bit. I've just got some nice blending just in a swirling motion. Just get that ink all the way around that image that we've stamped like that. And then here comes the magic. When we lift off the mask, you can see you've got your nice pretty egg shape. Isn't that cool? I just love that. It's so fun. You can do it with so many different shapes. It doesn't have to be, you know, for Easter. You could just do it as a background. And I'm going to, like I said, save my backing paper, put my mat back down on there, wipe it clean with a paper towel, and now I'm ready to store it and use it again. So now I'm going to make sure I don't have any ink on my fingers so that I don't get any on that nice bright white. And now I'm going to take the, I guess it's twine string that's meant to be wrapped around the jar of the stamp set, and I'm going to be adding it around the egg. So I'm just inking it up in black. And I'm going to get up over top here and line up the edge of the stamp with the edge of the egg that I've made on the left-hand side, like so. Now, obviously, that's not long enough, but there is an easy fix. I'm just going to take a thin-tipped pen. I'm using a permanent Le Pen marker. I chose it because the tip of the pen was about the same width as the stamp. So I'm just going to extend those lines. Just take your time and pull that, and you probably, if it's not quite thick enough, you can just go back over it again and just connect those lines. And if you didn't quite get to the edge, you can go back over here and add a little bit more in. But isn't that cool? You can't even really tell that that's not part of the stamp. And I'm also going to take the black and stamp the words. And I chose "You Fill Me with Happiness." I thought that really worked nicely with this because you fill Easter eggs or Easter baskets or whatever at Easter time. So I thought the "You Fill Me with Happiness" was really nice. So I've stamped that in the black as well. And now I wanted the egg to look like it was sitting in some grass. So I'm taking that grass stamp that I mentioned before from In the Trees and the grass green ink. And now I'm going to go and get the inside part of the oval that I die cut from my masking paper. Peel that off the backing. And I'm going to lay this over top of what we just stamped. And mostly I'm just concerned with just this bottom part down here, just making sure that that's covered up. Just going to smooth that down. Again, if you want to take your bone folder and make sure that that's going to stick down there. I'm going to take my green ink and just stamp some grass all around. And so I'm going to stamp over the mask in several places so that it looks like it's sitting in the grass. Kind of carry that off over to the edges like that. And again, when we lift off that mask, it looks like it's settled down in the grass. And again, wipe off your mask and put it on your backing sheet so you can save it and use it again later. And so we're done with all the stamping. Isn't that pretty? I just love that color combination too. So I'm going to take my tape runner and adhere this to my light piece of pink cardstock. Just centering that. And then this goes on my card base. And we are done. So I hope you enjoyed this masking technique. Try it with different sizes, different shapes. You could make polka dot eggs, you could make plaid stripy eggs, any kind of a small set of stamps where you can kind of mix and match the colors. You can make all kinds of different patterns. Like I said, you could also just do it just for a background on your card. I just think this is a really fun masking technique. I really hope you enjoyed this. Please check out my channel. I have lots of other card tutorials and product reviews, and if you haven't done so, if you want to subscribe so you can keep up with all my videos, I would really appreciate it. I hope you have an extra special day. This is Heather. Bye.